So hello and welcome to another episode of Fact Fiend. No, that's the Wiki Weekends I do the intro for. For Fact Fiend, it's more just casual intro. So, hey, welcome to Fact Fiend. I'm joined by Najela of the New Jersey Red Umbrella Alliance.
Hey.
And today we're talking about The Sims.
Yeah, I love that you have international human rights activists, and we're going to talk about The Sims, which is very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, that's not a joke. Najela's really important stuff, and I brought her on the episode to talk about The Sims.
I don't know how important I am, but I am a whore of some renown.
The Sims is a series defined by the creativity afforded to players, and you have the freedom to do pretty much everything you want, including creating a perfect digital facsimile of yourself that you can then immediately drown in a pool, surrounded by tiger skin rugs that are on fire. The one thing the game won't let you do, though, is mistreat a guinea pig, not unless you want to potentially cause the end of the world. So I believe, in addition to being like a renowned human rights advocate, that's not a joke. I know important people. You also might be one of the foremost experts on the Sims series, Najela. Is that right?
Well, I don't know. There are people who have written books on it. I haven't stalked Will Wright or anything like that, but I have been playing The Sims since its inception. I'm one of the few people who played the original Sims online. I played almost every iteration of The Sims just to see what it was like, and it is like my autistic special interest simulation games, and of all the simulation games, The Sims is my favorite.
Yes, and I've played quite a bit of The Sims, but mostly the first original game, The Sims. The Sims 2, 3, 4, and all the expansions are kind of just unexplored territory for me. And I know that they do get a lot more in-depth in what you're able to do, but that kind of ruined the series for me, because the fact that they introduced stuff like aging, it's like, I don't want to age. I age in real life. I don't want to play a game where my character might die of old age. I have to deal with that. My digital self shouldn't.
I always view The Sims 1 as kind of like a do-it-yourself sitcom, because sitcoms, like, nobody ever ages, and like there's not a lot of like story progression. And in later iterations, I can appreciate the gradual aging that was introduced in The Sims 2. The Sims 3 is not my favorite, but for The Sims 4, I really like the family gameplay for The Sims 4. I think it's just chef kiss, because in The Sims 1, because everything was the same, there wasn't a lot of dynamic between your family members. But for the current generation, Sims 4, I'm somebody who has foolishly collected every pack except for the Disney one, because screw you, Disney. You can have very creative ways of making interesting families with all kinds of different dynamics.
That's the thing I've seen, yes, because and my awareness of The Sims 4 and the freedom that you have in that game is limited mostly to the memes. And as someone who's like deep into that scene, is it true that people will like try to like basically EV breed children in that game to create like perfect digital versions of the Sims?
So they had something called Breed Out the Weird Challenge for The Sims 4, where you start off with a really, really like ugly sim.
So you make like someone who looks like me and be like, we need to fix this.
Yes, through selective breeding. I don't love digital, ethnic states. So I don't do ethnic cleansing on my Sims. Like, I am not participating in that. But yes, there are people who will try to make, this perfectly beautiful sim by selective breeding.
I like the idea of a challenge running The Sims being an ugly sim and trying to get laid. It's like, again, I deal with that in my real life. I don't need to go into my digital escapism and be confronted by the problems I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And some of the things that you can deal with in The Sims are quite outlandish, such as, like, lethal guinea pigs. So we should probably get back to that now. So
it is a tradition in the Sims franchise at this point.
It is indeed,
It started in The Sims 1. they introduced pets in an expansion pack. So you had small pets, and you also had cats and dogs. And the part of the small pets were guinea pigs. And
Yes.
if you neglected your guinea pigs, kept the cage real dirty, didn't clean up after them, or weren't feeding them, they would get sick and they would bite your sim.
Ow!
Yes.
And if you didn't attend to that, your sim would start sneezing. And then I think in 1 or 2 sims day, they would die. But
They would
if they
straight up just die,
sneezed
yes.
around other sims, they also would die.
They would indeed, yes. So I went and tracked down like the story behind this, because I was always kind of aware of the fact there was like an update to The Sims that just put in lethal guinea pigs. And what really fascinated me is the fact that, one, it's true, because it sounds like one of those video game myths, right? Of, did you hear they just put an update to The Sims that killed everybody with a guinea pig? It sounds like, or maybe it's a bug. Turns out it was neither. It was intentional, and they never told anybody. That's what makes it so fascinating to me. There was no update. They said, hey, look, you can now give your Sims pets, including a guinea pig. And the guinea pig, you can pick it up, you can play with it. You can, love that fuzzy wuzzy little ball of fur. Or should I say, you have to, because as you mentioned, if you didn't, it would get sick. And when it got sick, it got angry and decided, I need to take someone down with me. And as you mentioned, it would bite your sim, and at that point your sim would get sick. Like the guinea pig would inject into your sim the payload.
There's a new virus in the database.
What's happening?
It's replicating, eating up memory. What do I do?
Type cookie, you idiot.
And
Yes.
it would be this computerized virus that the game never told you about that would kill your sim dead in 2 days.
Also, the guinea pigs would die. Like,
course.
it was a kind of toss up if your neglected guinea pig would bite you, or if they would just like turn over and you get like sad music, like a sad trombone. And then it would just be like stink lines and you'd have a dead thing, which that would break my heart way more than my sim dying.
And that's the thing. Look after your guinea pigs. Like, do you not think you teach kids, like, teach them responsibility? Look after your guinea pigs. And what cracks me up is there was no penalty in The Sims for letting your Sims die, but there is for letting your guinea pig die. And that didn't happen with any other pet, only the guinea pigs.
Well, I mean, if you neglected your cat or your dog, they would just run away. So they'd be like, I'm out of here. And you just get
programs to
rejected
run
by
away.
your animal. Yeah, they'd run away. Up The Sims 4 now, you have to be on it if you want to have a cat or a dog, because they will just be like, you know what, you're not taking care of me, bye. And you'll have to go to the computer and post like lost pet ads to get your pet to come back. And if they come back and you don't welcome them back fast enough, they'll just leave again and they might not come back.
This is incredible, and this is why I love The Sims. I will never forget, one of the funniest things I've ever seen is a good friend of mine in university. She went through the same phase a lot of girls go through. She started playing The Sims again, and she got the horse expansion because she was obsessed with horses. And she was basically just, all her Sims did was earn money to pay for the horses. She ended up like marrying a guy just so she had a second source of income for the horses. And I'll never forget, a friend of mine went in onto her save file and just adopted her a kid and called it Bucktooth Taylor after himself. And then she didn't want the kid, so she just put it outside on the lawn and just waited 2 in-game days for like social services to take it. But then a notice came up of, if you can't look after a kid, you can't look after a horse. So they took all of her horses away. But then when she went to the place to adopt more horses, her horses were there. But when she tried to get them back, you're not allowed horses because you've mistreated them in the past. So her horses were stuck in digital horse jail.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you can't get that in any other video game because
Yeah.
that's a story that was created by those two people. And it would not be replicated in anybody else's game. It's entirely unique to that
Yeah.
experience. And it was fucking hilarious.
So I have 2 sim pet stories that
Yes.
I feel.
Tell
One
them.
is kind of sad and one is very endearing. So today happens to be when we're recording Jamaican Independence Day.
They rejoiced, not that they were parting from Britain, they are firm adherents of the crown, but because Jamaica stood on the threshold of independence. And then it rained.
My mom is Jamaican, and they had goats. So they had one goat that was born, and it kind of had like a little like messed up foot. So they couldn't sell it. So my grandfather let them, all the kids, there were like 6 of them, raise this little goat. And they loved that goat. It became like the family dog almost, but just a goat. Its name was Bath, which is crazy because my mom is super Christian. She had a black goat named Bath.
Oh, is it like Baphomet? Not Bath as in the thing you take like a walking
She has never heard of
Baphomet.
Baphomet. I've asked her. She was like, what do you mean that's funny? Like, she doesn't get it. The connection, not there for her.
It's a pretty metal name for a goat, but it's not the name I'd expect a Christian to give a goat.
Yeah.
Literally cloven hooves and horns.
You black-hearted whore!
No, Milos, no!
You bitch!
So, because you had all these kids loving this goat, treating it so well, Bath got huge. But it was also raised by, little punk kids. So what they did was they trained the goat that whenever somebody would bend down, it would run and pop them in the butt because they thought it was hilarious, which it is.
Of course.
But unfortunately, my very no-nonsense grandpa dropped his pocket watch one day, and the goat went full speed, knocked him into next Tuesday, and unfortunately, Bath was curry goat by that afternoon.
Oh, no.
Yummy, yum, 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 yum.
My brother was going to Full Sail at the time that The Sims 1 Pets came out. So what he did was he reskinned the dog and made it a goat. So we could remake my mom's goat for her that she lost.
And it will just live forever in The Sims.
Yes. So when I was a teenager, I presented my mom with Bath the goat, and she would just had a little sim of her and Bath, and they would just have little goat adventures, and it was adorable.
The power of video games.
She tried to make she decided to buy a fireplace. And if you know anything about The Sims 1.
I know where this is going now.
Yeah. So my mom made her sim save Bath the goat and put it outside, but then her sim caught on fire, and then Bath the goat came back, I guess, to hear her little simlish screams, and they both burned to death.
The Sims is amazing, right? Again, you would not get that in any other game. You would not. That's a story that you can only tell about The Sims.
Yeah. So that was one of a cherished childhood memory with The Sims Pets. It was trying to give my mom, trying to end generational curses, because it's a rite of passage if you're Caribbean. One of your cherished pets will be eaten. For me, it was a pig.
I cannot.
Which I also tried. I got the farm mod for The Sims 4 just so I could get a pig, so I could have my pig back.
Just the pet pigs. And I think my Sims pet story is not as, just childhood annihilating as that one. But it was, I remember I just kept getting fired because I downloaded the Sims pet expansion, and what would happen is I didn't get a pet, but all my neighbours did, and all the pets would piss on my lawn. So when my sim walked outside, the stat room would just crater because they're walking outside and their entire peripheral is just a sea of piss. And there was no way to clean it up because there were so many cats. And they got fired from work because they were so sad at all the piss outside their house.
Yeah.
So I had to build a corridor, and they had to sprint to work every morning to avoid the piss.
So the solution to that was you had to build a fence all around your lot.
To stop them
at the
from getting
very
in.
edges to stop them from getting in, yeah. So there was a cheat that made it so you could build right up to the street, so that way nobody could get into your lot, and you would just delete one thing of the fence for your sim to go to work, and then close it back.
And then rebuild it back up. Yeah, I never thought that I built a corridor to the car that would pick my sim up. And then deleted all of their windows, but then just put 500 lamps everywhere so they wouldn't feel depressed. And that's the Sims is amazing for that. Like, I remember once in The Sims 1, because you can, for some reason, just make a house that only has a child in it. And you can just live out your Home Alone adventure, and a child can't earn money, they can't cook, and they can only take one day off because they have to go to school. And it got to the point where my child Sim was selling windows to buy pizza.
Yeah, you actually can't do that anymore, because The Sims 4, when you make a household, you have to have at least a teenager to watch a kid. So you can't just have, like, orphans.
See, and that's why The Sims 1 was my favourite experience, because you can live out your Macaulay Culkin adventures. But in regards to children, that brings us back to the guinea pig plague, because the guinea pig plague, as you mentioned, you could cure it, but there was no in-game explanation of what you had to do, and the only real way to avoid dying was to just rest for 2 in-game days. The problem is, children couldn't do that because children had to go to school every other day. At least. So children would just be... And the thing is, most people bought guinea pigs for their sim children as a pet.
Well, I mean, you could let them sleep, but then they would have to they'd be sent off to military school. So your kid wouldn't be dead in game, but you just wouldn't be able to control them ever again. So you would never see them again, but at least you would know in like the sim ether that they weren't dead.
But they will never come back. And what made the plague so dangerous is that even in-game exploits to avoid death did not work. For example, the Grim Reaper, you could parlay with the Grim Reaper in one of the expansions to beg for death. Like, if someone died, you could ask the Grim Reaper for a second chance. If you managed to pull that off with a sim who died of guinea pig plague, they would immediately drop dead again, because fuck you, look after your guinea pig.
That is pretty much how death works in The Sims 4, unfortunately, for a lot of death states. So I think that's also the case with the expansion before last was called For Rent, and it introduced a fungal plague, which is, I think, a callback to the guinea pig plague. Instead of guinea pigs, it's mushroom and like fungus. So if you have like mold on your lot, your Sims will start coughing, and they give you like 2 warnings, like, hey, you should really clean this up, or don't touch that. If you ignore those warnings, then your Sim will kind of go very much The Last of Us and spring fungus and then collapse and die. But if you go to the Grim Reaper and they pop back up, they still are sick. So if you don't fix it, they're just going to die again.
See, that's, again, The Sims is amazing for that sort of thing. And in regards to the guinea pig plague, they did eventually issue a patch that fixed it, but they never explained what the plague was. There were hundreds of thousands of players complaining on the forums, like, what the hell, my Sim died with no explanation. Maxis, it was Maxis who made the initial one, yes? Mm-hmm. They released an update which included that basically the digital equivalent of a vaccine from the guinea pig plague, so you would just have the cough and sniffles for 2 days instead of dying in-game. And then the closest they got to actually telling people what was going on was a painting of a sad guinea pig, which featured a poem, which will be on screen right now, which basically just said, hey, if a guinea pig is not looked after, it'll get angry, and if it's angry, you don't want to go near it. And that's the closest you got in-game to any sort of warning that mistreating a guinea pig could potentially kill you and every other Sim in the world, because it was contagious and could go to other Sims and NPCs who could keep it in their house and then bring it back.
Yeah, but I feel like that is how The Sims has communicated with players. They usually have to look at like descriptions of things in build buy mode and see what you're purchasing, because there was also something called the sad clown painting.
Yeah, what does that do?
So the sad clown painting, it basically would see if your Sim doesn't get enough like social interactions, they will have a nervous breakdown, and they could either, in The Sims 2, like an emergency doctor will come, but if you have the sad clown painting in The Sims 1, the sad clown would just be on your lot crying and be sad with your Sim, so they would never stop being sad. So it became this vicious cycle of sadness.
Your Sim basically just starts hallucinating, and the hallucination is manifested as a real creature in their world that just cries with them.
The sad clown.
I never knew about that, but I knew the painting was always weird. I never wanted it on my wall.
Yeah, I would always have the sad clown painting because I thought it was hilarious, and I'm pretty afraid of clowns.
I think a lot of people are. Like, there's a study oddly done where I live in Sheffield. It was the Sheffield Children's Hospital, where they did a study of children and teenagers about what they find soothing. So they were thinking, what do we put in recovery rooms for children, because we don't want to be stressed, because stress means it's like, just it ruins your ability to just recover from injury, because if you're stressed you can't focus on getting better. And they found that literally 100% of all polled children found clowns scary. Literally 100%.
First off, you look fucking horrified. It's a clown, man. People love clowns.
Stop doing that.
Don't do that again, okay? I will give birth.
I don't know why they became a thing, though I do like learning about like clown culture.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And there's like, you have to like paint your face on an egg when you become a clown,
Yeah.
and it becomes that's your face, and no one can steal it. Clowns get into
Yeah, that's
fist
like your
fights.
calling card, and like the different colors of clowns and harlequins mean something different. I think it's interesting, but like if I'm in a subway car and it's just me and a clown, I'm not staying in that subway car.
No, as you should, because
Which is a real thing that happened to me when I worked in New York City.
That sounds about on par for what probably happens in New York, from like my recollection of all the stories I've heard about it. Because I would not want to. If I just saw a guy walking down the street dressed as a clown, I'd be like, well, clearly that guy is either a serial killer or on his way to become one.
Hello, hi, excuse me. Why are you dressed like that?
Imposteur! Tu es un imposteur!
You're the imposteur, if that word means what I think it means.
If you're getting on the A train and there's just an empty car, you just know something's not good in that car. Sometimes it's a dead body, but sometimes it could just be a clown. And you know what? I'd much rather ride with the body than the clown.
I'm sure most people would. Let us know at home, like, your favourite Sims stories, and if you would also rather ride with a dead body than a clown. It's always an adventure when we have you on an episode of Taylor. But to end on, there is one final bit to this story. And the bookend to the guinea pig plague story is that the producers didn't know why developers decided to put it in. And they said, and I quote, they seemingly added a world-altering plague on a whim. And according to that same producer, every single time they release any update that features pets or small pets, they will be asked the same question. Are you putting the plague back in? To which that producer responds the same thing every time. Maybe. And that's just like... the fact they've got the balls to just do that.
Yeah. And it has escalated in The Sims 4, because now not only can your guinea pigs kill you, but if you are really good to your guinea pig, they can achieve super intelligence, build a rocket ship, and then they will escape your Sims house.
Because they...
On the rocket ship.
I'm better than this.
Yes.
So you have to straddle the fine line of treat the guinea pig well, but not too well.
Yeah. They can also tell your Sim a joke that is so funny that they will laugh themselves to death.
I love video games and stuff like this. It's like when Skyrim first came out and a bunch of people how did I get caught? I was sneaking in a town, got caught pickpocketing, and it turns out that chickens in the world had line of sight and were snitchers. And they would have line of sight and would be able to communicate telepathically with guards and snitch on you for committing crimes.
Hey, you don't want to mess with Skyrim chickens.
Just the snitch chickens.
It's a whole nother video.
It is indeed, yes. That will be a topic for another day. But I hope everyone at home has enjoyed this one. And before we end, Najela, is there anything you would like to plug for the folks at home? Because I'm not lying. You do important work, as you're about to mention.
Yeah. So I am the executive director of New Jersey Radambara Alliance. And we are a collective of activists that advocate for the human rights of sex workers concentrated in New Jersey, but we also do work with the UN system of human rights, and we are fundraising because we want to be able to have a boot camp to train future leaders that are in marginalized and criminalized communities. So if you go to our website, njrua.org, there is a handy dandy donate function, and you can help us continue the work that we do.
Yep, and we're going to sweeten the deal right now because I'm going to make an offer to anybody else. You've got a story that you're going to tell right now because I didn't believe this. But as mentioned, you've worked with the UN.
Yes.
And you are a fan of the channel. You're a friend of the channel. I've known you for many years now. And you went to the UN wearing my merch. Is that right?
I did. So I was recently in Geneva for the 56th session of the Human Rights Council. There was a not so great report that was filed by the Special Rapporteur on violence against women and girls. And I was basically there to testify against said report. And in the building, the UN in Geneva is kind of a weird building, if you guys have been in there. So it's either super hot or really cold because it's like all like stone. And I was going between different parts. So I had my Fiend zip up hoodie, which has the cool like fact demon thing.
Yeah, I've got a couple of examples of it here. So I keep all the merch here. Was it this one?
Yes.
Was that one? Okay. This is the t-shirt, but imagine it on a hoodie.
Yeah. I also have the t-shirt, but I wasn't wearing that day. So I was stopped trying to go into the main hall where all the delegates meet. And they were like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't have logos. Because I guess they thought that was like the logo of I don't know, I guess.
A gang.
So,
a gang.
Maybe a gang, maybe, I don't know, rebels or something. But it looked affiliated to them and they weren't sure what the affiliation was. So I had to take it off and turn it inside out so I could go and sit in the UN because...
So I can now say my merch is banned from the UN. What a great advertising plug.
Yeah, so I was able to sit, I was able to participate, but I did have to turn it inside out. And yeah, it was too badass. They just looked at it and they were like, oh, can't abide by that.
Yep.
Too cool.
So I will now, make an offer. If there's anyone out there can prove that they have worn my merch in a cooler place than that, you'll find my social media links below. Just send along a photo. And if you send along, a photo of that and proof of a donation to the org that Angela works with, I will send you any piece of merch that I have. Because I still have some Fact Fee merch left available. Not in the smattering of size people will be used to, but I still have a bunch of Fact Fee merch, some of which there is no other example of, because I have like prototypes and ones that were taken off shelves and stuff like that for copyright issues. So I will send that to anywhere in the world if someone can send along those things to one of my social media accounts listed below. More than anything, I'm just curious. Where else has my merch been worn? Can someone top the UN?
I want that to be my bragging right though.
It's just as well to the UN, right? It's too badass. It's too raw. Awesome.